I consume a lot of alternative media, a lot of it from the left, like the Young Turks, Secular Talk, The Humanist Report, The Michael Brooks Show, and others. But there are two shows where the audiences sort of have a beef with each other, and that's The Jimmy Dore Show and Sam Seder's Majority Report. Now personally, I love both shows. I think they both have their purpose, and somebody in my YouTube comments yesterday summed it up perfectly. I took a screenshot and tweeted out the comment from Godfunk, which in part says this: Dore continues to knock it out of the park when addressing the ridiculous corruption of the Democratic Party and the sweeping changes that need to be implemented to make a better America possible. Sam will continue to talk through the intricacies of an issue long after 95% of the voting population has glazed over. I'm a junkie. I love both. Now, while both shows are progressive, are both on TYT Network, and both supported Bernie Sanders in the primaries, their differences have instead become the focus, with the feud between the hosts starting last year, when the two disagreed on how to vote in the general election and what message to convey to their respective audiences, with Jimmy pushing the Green Party and Sam Seder pushing Hillary Clinton. Now, what I'm concerned about is how entrenched each audience appears to be in their hate for the other, and how damaging that is to growing a united movement that otherwise have the same goals in mind. So I covered this feud a few months ago in a video titled Sam Seder Prefers to Criticize Jimmy Dore Instead of Joy Reid. And in the video, I come to Jimmy's defense, but also point out that I love Sam's show, and there's a lot that can be learned from both. But Sam Seder has been more vocal about Jimmy than Jimmy has been about Sam, and I think Sam would also agree with that, which is why I felt more of a need to come to Jimmy's defense. Now, Sam says that his criticisms of Jimmy come down to inaccuracies that Jimmy has said in his reporting. And I have no issue with pointing out inaccuracies. We all get things wrong. Even though we are all on the same side, it doesn't make sense to just blindly believe everything every other progressive commentator says. But it's the demeanor in which we disagree, what language we use, and that includes when we talk to those different audiences. In this Majority Report video titled, Sam Seder, Your Protest Vote Was Monumentally Stupid, and Now We'll Devote a Segment to Berating You, is an example of what I'm talking about.
I got an email from someone, a listener.
About to get real here.
And so after saying, I enjoy listening to your show and respect your opinion, I enjoy the mixture of political talk with humorous banter. So why I didn't vote for Clinton? I urged all my friends to vote their conscience. I have several religious friends that I knew would struggle voting for a man like Trump, but I would be a hypocrite if I voted for Hillary Clinton. Turns out that the course that a democracy takes in this instance, when people like you are the voters, is it starts to sort of just degrade, go down into a kleptocracy, and then I like some of the moves the DNC is making. I see that EW and BS have bigger voices. You know, this guy, I don't know if he voted for Jill Stein or just didn't vote for president or what. I understand it's the failure of the campaign, but don't come to me with your stupid rationalizations. You people are basically coming and saying, we're chum. And I have no interest in having a conversation with chum. Yeah, it's definitely up to the Clinton people campaign. They blew it. They blew it. They didn't get people out, but those people they didn't get out, they don't know who I am. They don't have my email address, and they don't have my Twitter feed, the people who didn't come out. Anybody who's contacting me with an argument as to why they didn't vote, that's on you. That's not on the campaign, because you knew better. You had access to more information. You're more engaged. You didn't vote because of a psychological issue you have. Honestly. Again, not blaming the loss on you. It's just like, I'm not blaming Clinton's loss on Trump voters either. I still think that they're morons.
Okay, so my takeaway from that is how Sam Seder approaches somebody that doesn't agree with him. Somebody that voted either third party or didn't vote at all. He talks down to that person. This is somebody who is a viewer of the show. They know Sam Seder. They watched the Majority Report. They felt compelled to write into him. But despite all that, he feels the need to talk down to this person, as if they're stupid. And is that an effective way of getting somebody on your side? Is that an effective communication method to educate people to act like they're children, like they're morons. I don't think it is. And you'll notice near the end of it, he acts like it's this person's fault that they didn't vote the right way because they had access to all the right information and they should have voted the way that he voted. But he doesn't look at it from a different perspective. Maybe, Sam, your argument for voting for Hillary Clinton wasn't convincing enough for this viewer to listen to you. And you have to consider that as a potential and be able to maybe improve your arguments next time. Now, this seems to be a common theme with a lot of people I notice in my comments and on Twitter. People that are turned off by Sam Seder simply because of how he talks down to a certain group of progressives. And some examples of that came up in my tweets yesterday. Like this tweet from Beth. It actually completely turns me off to Sam. I don't like how he goes after Jimmy at all. This one from Bree Andrews. I feel the same way. I used to watch Sam and respected his work, but his attacks on Jimmy are often disingenuous and dishonest. This one from France Fallot. Same. Sam can be a complete asshole and I don't have time for it. And this one from Harm Mejin. So tired of Sam's crap. Unsubscribed months ago when he started all this shit. Now, honestly, I can see the argument on the other side. You could say, well, the audience shouldn't be so sensitive. And that's fine. You can make that argument. But the reality is, that's human behavior. If you talk down to somebody, they are less likely to continue listening to you. So, yesterday on the Majority Report, I tried to make that argument. So I called into his show, and it didn't quite go the way I wanted it to.
Hey, Sam. This is David Dole calling from Toronto. I'm also known as the Rational National.
Oh, the Rational National. I've heard. Oh. You came up yesterday on the program.
I'm a big fan of both you and Jimmy Dore. I watch both your shows.
I'm sorry.
I think you both serve a purpose. And I feel like Jimmy sort of gets the raw deal from you, to be honest. And I think it comes down to sort of a misunderstanding. So the way I view Jimmy Dore is he speaks to the anger, the emotion that people feel, whereas you speak more to the intellect and the you have a long format show, so you can go deeper into topics.
And that's just the beginning of this shit. That's the best case scenario. And he's telling his audience of 50, 60, 80,000 people, 250,000 people, it doesn't make a difference. But then the guy is full of shit. He doesn't allow anybody to question what he says, which is why you could never call into his shit.
Politics, but they're angry.
Now they know less. Now they know less.
Sorry?
Now they know less.
I'm just seeing it from a top-level view where both of you align, for the most part, on policy. And you just have different ways of going about it. And
yes, I actually tell
Jimmy
people
facts.
I think that's pretty rational on my part. So, I mean, I appreciate the call. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Bye.
So that was just a short snippet, but you get the idea. So I just wasn't able to communicate my argument as well as I can in a video like this. And Sam Seder having the platform and being able to speak over me also helped in having him direct the conversation to where he wanted to direct it. But honestly, the fault's on me for not properly communicating what I wanted to communicate, which is why I'm making this video. Now, there are two takeaways that I get from this call-in, and that's when Jimmy Dore is foaming at the mouth, angry about something, it's usually against powerful people, like Wall Street bankers that crashed the economy in 2008. But when Sam Seder is foaming at the mouth, angry about something, it's about Jimmy Dore and progressives that didn't vote for Hillary. So that's not to say that Sam doesn't get mad about other things, but there is this venom there. There is serious anger towards Jimmy Dore and a part of the left that didn't feel compelled enough to vote for Hillary Clinton. And I feel that anger is misplaced. But it does seem to me that Jimmy can be in a panel with people who voted for Hillary Clinton in the general. But Sam can't be on a panel with people who voted for Jill Stein or didn't vote at all without immediately thinking like they are a crazy, dumbass person. And I think that's a problem. I think you can't communicate with those people if you're coming from that position. From a position of, I'm smarter than you, you're an idiot, and here's why you're dumb. You have to come from the position of, okay, I understand and empathize with why you voted that way, but here are the reasons why I think you voted the wrong way. And this brings me to Glenn Greenwald's speech at the Allard Prize. Now, every 2 years, the Allard Prize is given to a person or group that has shown leadership in fighting corruption or protecting human rights. And I think there's an important lesson to be learned in Glenn Greenwald's speech at that event.
And so one of the controversies that has surrounded this event is the fact that I happen to live in Brazil, which is the country from which one of the finalists, the Lava Jato prosecutors, also come. And there are a lot of people in Brazil who harbor serious criticisms of what the task force has done, just like there are people in Azerbaijan and Egypt who harbor criticisms about the work that the other two finalists have done. And I have to say that some of those criticisms are not invalid. In fact, I share some of them, and I think I've written about them before. And there was a public pressure campaign against the prize to withdraw the nomination and demanding that I cancel my speaking appearance here in protest of what they've done. And I have to say that notwithstanding the fact that I do think they've made some mistakes, I never for 1 second considered doing that. It never even crossed my mind. And so I think that what we can say about the Brazilian task force, Lava Jato as we call it in Brazil, car wash as we call it here, what I think we can say about them is that they definitely have not been perfect, but what they have been is very principled and very persistent. And they're really devoted to this idea that they want to change their society from this systemically corrupt one to one in which the rule of law prevails no matter whether you're a black, poor kid from the favela or an extraordinarily rich oligarch born into billions of dollars in wealth. And so I think they embody that first attribute of being ordinary, not having much power, but being devoted to changing the world.
So I think what's important to point out here is that, like Sam Seder and Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald and the Car Wash Group do similar work. And like Sam Seder criticizing Jimmy Dore on what he believes Jimmy's gotten wrong, Glenn Greenwald has reported on things that the Car Wash Group have gotten wrong. But despite all that, Glenn Greenwald is able to recognize that they're both fighting for a common goal. They're both fighting against corruption in government. And they're able to still, despite their differences, come together and celebrate that. I mean, all of us align on policy. And that's really what I see Sam Seder and Jimmy Dore both aligning on. So even if you don't care about this very specific niche feud within the progressive community, there are a few things that I want you to take away from this video. And that's, when somebody disagrees with you, it's okay to be vocal about it and have that disagreement. But come at it from a position of empathy. Try to understand how that person has gotten to that decision. What has led them to now think the way they do? And then vocalize what has led you to now think the way that you do. And you may discover that you actually have the same goals in mind. You just have different experiences that have led you to different positions. But now getting back to progressivism, we all have the same goals in mind. We all want Medicare for all. We all want environmental protections. We all want universal education. But you don't get to those positions unless you listen to each other. And when we listen to each other, we learn.